Bottom. Keep pressing buttons.
There you go.
There we go. My name is Jeff Schaefer with Legislative Audit, and I was asked to come here to answer some questions and stuff, so
Fire away.
fire away.
Don Kettering, you mentioned you have some questions.
Is the current budget submitted to the state based upon expenses and revenues covered exclusively based on the general fund?
The budget that you prepare is, the general fund is one of the funds. There are several funds underneath the Yankton County umbrella. Road and Bridge Fund, Yankton, that has its own budget. The general
But they
fund.
don't go into what we send to the state to get approved.
I think it's all under the levies and stuff like that. Well, the only one that has a levy, if you will, is your general fund, and there's a small levy in the road and bridge fund for secondary road. But your budget that you approved, that you sent, that goes in, covers all funds. It says one
How about
budget for
schools.
the schools is not, that's separate. You're charged with collection of the taxes for them, but it's not, that is not part of the budget for this county.
So in our budget, Patty, 100% of what we take in taxes is in our general fund budget.
And highway?
And highway, yes. 100% of what you're, under your levy is in your general fund and or a county levy, yes.
I'm asking these questions for the benefit of
Sure.
the public, because I think a lot of the public doesn't know and understand that.
The tax levy that a general person would get in the mail that pays there, that if you see it's $5,000 tax that you pay. The very biggest chunk of that will be the schools, and then there's a chunk to the township, there's a chunk to the city, and there's a chunk to the county. But it's county's portion of a tax dollars that you pay is probably 15 to 18% goes to the county.
So in our budget that we send to you is the revenue for taxes, 100% of the taxes that we get, or is it
100% of taxes levied by the county is revenue to the county. Not the total amount of the tax requests sent to
So
the.
the public, if they were thinking about all the property taxes that people have to pay, they don't realize that.
Yeah, that's correct. The biggest
They
portion
don't
of that,
realize
that is for your townships, your cities, schools, and the county.
That's-
That's all four of them in their tax. That is not all county money. It is not.
Gary, do we have that pie chart with the breakdown of, where's it at? And
Well,
maybe-
yes, we do.
Let's set that out so everybody understands that, because you get a tax bill in one lump sum, and you go over to the treasurer's office, to Patty Vavra, and you write it out to Yankton County. But a very small portion of that goes to Yankton County, just like Jeff said, the vast majority of it goes to the school boards. About a pretty high percentage goes to the municipality if you live in one. And then there's also special districts, water districts, road districts, fire districts. Those are even lumped in a lot of times with the county, but yet they still get pulled out of that. So that number is a lot lower. So take a look at that and you can see the vast majority of what you pay does not come to the county.
By state law, the county
Yeah.
treasurer is charged with collection of all taxes, whether it be school tax, and they pay it on one bill, your tax notice, and it's all a portion thereafter. The county gets their share of that tax, and schools get theirs, and so on and so forth.
And it's interesting that we do all the assessment, we collect it, and then Patty Baba redistributes it. But yet the county, even though we do all that work, collects nothing for doing all of that effort as well. And so all the expense of the assessment, collection, and redistribution is a cost to the county that we can't recoup either.
That's correct.
And then we have to pay you to do our audit too, on
Well,
top
yes,
of that.
that's
Yeah,
correct.
so, which is about 27,000 or,
I don't really know what it is exactly,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
our billable rate is like $98 an hour.
yeah. And just so you guys know that we have to pay the state to audit us.
And then you also pay, when you get federal
Yeah.
grant money and stuff
Yeah,
like that,
yeah,
that goes through here,
exactly.
we have to audit that also.
Yep.
But, and you're also charged with collection of that, so when they give you that, anybody that doesn't pay that has delinquent property, you're charged with the collection and the due process of taking that land, selling it, and getting them their money.
Yep.
So it's a
Yep.
pretty good deal on their side, so.
And does the state auditor's office have any control over how the county treasurers invest the money?
Okay, first of all, first thing is, I'm with the Department of Legislative Audit. There is a state auditor's office, but we're under the legislative branch, and we do the audits and stuff, and we report direct to the legislative.
So the answer is you don't know?
No, on the second question is, what was the second part of the question? It was the,
I believe the second part of the question is, do they have any control over how that money is invested during the course of the year before it's spent
at the county level?
at the county level?
Yeah, you would, I don't think, I think the board would charge them with optimizing the interest rates they return on that. No, there's no,
So the commissioners can basically tell the treasurer where to put that money,
yes.
within reason?
Yes, that's correct.
Good to know.
And you should be maximizing the amount of taking advantage, because
And that's what I have been beating a drum about for 3 years.
I noticed I won't say, but I've been to a recent audit where just recently found that they were getting 0.45% interest on their, and another like counties close by was getting 5.45.
And what did the state auditors do when they found out it was 0.45?
What we did was, it is not a violation of a state law, it's more of a management decision. We brought it to the board attention. It is not a violation of anything, it's not a violation of an audit procedure, anything with GAAP, GAGAS, any of those things. It's just that a prudent individual, a reasonable person would invest it
At a better rate?
the maximum they could get.
Correct.
Next question that I would have is, do you have a chart or a document that shows the tax rate on real estate by county?
Do I have one?
Yeah.
I do not.
Does
Do I
the
think-
state have one?
I couldn't answer that. The information's there, but I don't know if it's been accumulated at a county level. I don't know that.
I've been told by an individual that is, in my opinion, reasonably intelligent, that Yankton County is the second highest in the state, and I don't believe that.
I couldn't answer that. I don't know.
Who could answer that for us?
Today, I don't know if, I don't.
Well, tomorrow or Monday.
I'd have to ask, I'd probably talk to the Auditor General, Russ Olson, he's the Auditor General, he's my boss, and I could ask to see if he has something like that, but I do not know the levies and the comparison, the rates, I do not know.
I think we can, I think that.
I'm asking for it, if you can get it.
Okay, yep.
Thank you. What expenses and revenues are not covered by the general fund that will need to be paid?
Well, the road and bridge funds, they have their own obligations and stuff like that, and they have some of the other funds, like, let's just say domestic abuse. That money is restricted, that the law says, here's what revenues go in there, and here's what you will spend them for. So usually have a separate fund for that. Modernization, preservation, most of the other funds have their own separate revenue sources, and the budget is developed for them.
Would detention be in there?
What's that?
Detention, would that be under that kind of a?
You mean juvenile
Juvenile
detention?
detention.
No, that's in the general fund.
That's in the general fund, under public safety, under generally the sheriff's department or something similar.
Do you have a rough breakdown of what % on average county budgets are unfunded mandates across the state?
I do not
Do you
have
have
that.
that? But I mean, but for the audience, the number is pretty high. We've heard something, between 80 and 90%. You think that's a
That
good?
have unfunded.
Well, the amount that's spent by counties for unfunded mandates, all their statutory responsibilities that we have no choice. I mean, is that a ballpark estimate at least?
I don't know the number on it, but unfunded mandate is essentially what state law says. Here's what you will provide.
Yeah.
Here's what you will have for your revenues. Here's what you can charge, this, and this. And you need to provide these services.
I want to again say, I'm not, nor is Dan attacking you.
Yeah.
I understand. But
I want the public to understand more about the budgeting process, to include our media sources, because they don't dig into it and find out what the whole picture is.
essentially, a county is a creature of state law. statute. That you can only charge what statute lets you charge and an amount that they, that's allowable. And you must provide the services outlined in state statute. And that's what you have to do. And the problem is with a lot of counties is they're coming up with, and particularly with the highway department, the cost of road projects and stuff are so excessively high. But your growth in CPI and stuff like that doesn't generate you dollars beyond a very minimum. Your general fund has revenues in excess of expenditures on a year-to-year basis of about $1.1 million more revenue than expenditures. But that's measured prior to transfers to the other funds. And the county typically moves money to the road and bridge fund and the emergency management for other expenses that they might have. So anytime that you transfer in a basic statement more than $1.1 million from the general fund to another fund, you are reducing the cash balance in the general fund. And when you do less, it'll grow. Your revenues are pretty static. We took, and my estimate was made taking out all one-time monies, like the ARPAs, the LATCF, and the COVID money, which were one-time monies that came in at one time, that they're one-time. I just looked them out and says, let's find out what the revenues in excess of expenditures are, and so kind of know where the picture is. So a general rule of thumb, anything over 1.1 million will reduce your cash balance in general.
I believe Patty has a list of expenses that are mandated.
But if you go by that, it
Can
says.
you pass it out to the
Yep.
board, commission?
Yes.
Well,
I'd like to see it.
I mean, I got a short list here. I mean, according to what we've been told, is well over 80% of our budget is unfunded mandates by the state, which is law saying you will, counties, pay for this, and the state provides zero funding. And that's, like our auditor, treasurer, register of deeds, state's attorney, sheriff, coroner, county commission, director of equalization, emergency management, jail, weed and pest control, election staff, veteran service. Those are the departments we have to have. But then in addition to that, we also have to provide court-appointed attorneys, which we're the only state in the nation now that 100% of the judicial system is on the back of the county. 49 other states have said this is not a feasible practice to do that. And if you read the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution, it says, you get a trial by jury provided by the state, right? The Sixth Amendment says that, but our state is like, well, the state really means the counties pay for it.
41 or 49 states.
What's that? 49 from whatever. The only
I
other one.
thought you said 41.
That some of it is Pennsylvania, and they've since transitioned away from it. And then we also, like you said, have to provide abuse and neglect, poor relief, mental health, juvenile detention, domestic abuse, indigent legal, indigent medical, mental illness, court-appointed 24/7 programs, and even the predatory animal program is all required. And none of these are optional, and there's no revenue stream that helps with these. And we don't have a choice. When we get a $50,000 bill for juvenile detention, we have no choice but to pay it. When the guy from Sioux Falls came down and murdered that lady and cut her head off, guess who gets stuck with the bill? All of you guys, the property taxpayers.
What were
Yeah.
throwing me on when you said
Yeah.
unfunded mandates, there
Yeah.
are no state funding that is accompanied
Yeah.
to that. This is all funded by what your property taxes are,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
that's what you cover them, you're still funded with it.
Would the state realize how much it costs the counties? Thank you. Costs the counties when we were required to have interpreters for court cases for
I'm
immigrants?
sure that they're aware of it. I don't know how far they go with this. I don't know.
Well,
what they do with that, but-
so our, what was it last year? 350,000 or something?
Yeah.
Patty?
Easy. Interpreter service.
Interpreter service, that's a hell of a lot of money.
Well,
That takes care of a lot of 4-H
Yeah.
organizations.
and to your cause, is that this is not unusual to Yankton County. This is the
Oh,
same type of thing,
I-
position that almost all counties are running into, that
I
the costs
under-
associated with
I
things
understand that,
are
but
through
the
the roof.
state has to understand that.
Well,
They're the ones that make the laws that take the money out of our pockets.
well, and what
No, the
frus-
state doesn't make the law, the legislators make the
Legislature.
laws.
That's where it needs to start. You need to do something as far as you can't just go and say, we're gonna charge for this. You're
Well,
a
how
creature of
come- How
statutes.
come they can come in the middle of our budget year and say, we're gonna charge you for interpreters? They can do it.
It's not
You're
Jeff's
asking me to
fault,
respond
John.
to something like that. I'm not qualified to answer that question. You'll have to, I can tell you how to account for it, but I don't know why they do what they do.
And you look at, how many county budget, do you look at all of them, or do you look at just some of them, county
Our
budgets?
office does all the county
Okay.
audits.
So what's your analysis of our budget? You know, just, I guess, be honest with us. How does it look compared to other counties?
For the current year,
Yeah.
we're auditing the 22, we're
Yeah.
behind 22 and 23
Yeah.
is what we're looking at now, and I've seen the 24 and 25's audits and stuff like that. And I think what your primary goal has been is that roads have been a primary focus for excess dollars. I mean, I don't think anything is hurting or anything like that, but I think that's that's what you did with your grant funds, is you dedicated them to roads.
But I would say the past few years' budgets aren't necessarily accurate, because we received a lot of COVID dollars where we were able to put toward roads and bridges, and those dollars are spent now. And our revenue is basically, we're at 2019 revenue, maybe a little higher, but now costs have gone astronomically higher. I mean, look at the price of gravel trucks and wages and all of that. So now we're stuck with pre-COVID revenue source and post-COVID expenses. And I tell you, after COVID, things went up more than 3% or CPI. They went up probably 20, 30, 40%. So how are we supposed to operate when we're limited to 3% or CPI, whichever's less, and inflation's 20, 30, 40, 50%?
I understand that. I don't
Yeah.
have any legislative influence
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it's the same problem that a lot of folks are having.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, as far as your budget goes like that, you have fully expended those grant funds, they're all
Yeah.
gone. And in fact, your 25 budget, hits your general fund cash extremely hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you have to kind of watch that going forward. Because
So-
you transfer so much to cover the
Yeah.
shortfall in those other funds.
And this is purely for the public's interest, so that they.
Okay.
I got a question. What percent of the budget is used for employee pay and benefits? Now, Patty, did you get that calculated?
I do not have that. I just
I'd like
look
to-
at it.
I'd like to know that.
From a
I'd like to
function.
know what percent of operational budgets are used for enforcement, to include the state's attorney's office, sheriff's operation, and detention.
Well, your budget is broken down by function, like for sheriff's
understand that.
office and stuff like that. So you could pull that as far as a total. You could probably have to queue that. I don't have that in front of me today, but you,
It's ju, yeah, it stipulates each line item that they're paying in his budget.
yes. And
And
public
some-
safety, public works, and so on and so forth.
And I don't know the percentage, but some of some departments, their most expense is wages and
Your
personnel.
office would be one of them, because you don't, you account for the things, the expenditures and stuff like that. That's what most of the offices are, is salaries and benefits, yeah.
It's kind of the way the whole deal should be. That's the way business should run it.
A lot of them, yeah, that office is salaries and benefits. That's a big thing. A lot of the departments within the state are that way, so.
I guess, according to how I'm seeing it, and maybe Don's, with our upcoming budget right now, we're getting about 11 million in change in revenue, but expenses are about 15 million. And almost all our reserves are, we have, from what I understand, 5 million in reserves. If we pass this budget, it's gonna take 4 of those away.
When you say
Yeah.
reserves, are you talking about?
Cash on
Carryover.
hand.
Cash on hand, gotcha. Yep, yep.
So my concern is if we pass the budget that we have now, that's in my opinion, 25% over our revenue, how long can that be sustained?
When the cash is gone.
Okay, so-
It'll correct itself.
Am I?
Okay, this is a point that I have to really emphasize to the public. When the cash is gone, then what do? You start not paying the schools, you start not.
That has nothing to do with schools. They're getting their money anyway. This is just the county's portion of it we're talking about, just that.
That's the problem.
Oh, you mean as far as collections and stuff like that? Well, you'll still have taxes. It'll be just drastic cutbacks in what you can provide, isn't what it'll
You're
be.
exactly right, of what we can provide, so we won't be able to provide all that to the schools.
So-
No, the schools
No,
get,
the
they'll get
schools
their
are
money
They'll still
first.
get their
They'll
money.
get theirs first,
Yeah.
but eventually it'll run out. That's the problem.
No, the
No,
schools,
the-
the
what'll-
schools
what'll
are
run
gonna
out.
get, the schools are gonna get their money. People still have to pay their taxes. If you can't afford to do the road projects, that'll have to be cut.
So we go back to the fifties and sixties and watch all the cuts that have been taken in roads. That's why our roads are the way they are now. Public know that.
Well, one of the things is, the revenue sources that you have are set by state law. And the amounts that you collect and so on, set by state law.
Okay.
If those become inadequate, you have the only options available that aren't legislatively in place now are an opt-out for road, for general fund opt-out or for an HBR, Highway and Bridge levy.
And the state, they never come to you or to your department and say, how's it looking out there?
Yeah, they do all the time. And I say, I don't have that in front of me. Russ Olson speaks to the legislature all the time, and he may have those things available as far as what what all the counties are sitting at. This is not uncommon to this particular county. I need you to be aware of
I
it.
understand that, we're just trying not to get into the 15 or 20 counties that are already in deep trouble.
Well,
I don't know how
it's
many
actually
it
what,
is.
when you were, to your point, when you was talking earlier about, if what's coming to your budget is requested, expenditures, is 14 million, and you only have $11 million of revenue. Well, $3 million of the expenditures have to go away. That's the
Well,
only
we
way,
already-
the only
we-
balance, the only way to make it up is cash on hand.
We
If
already
you-
took 2 million out
Okay,
of what our original departments passed in.
and if you don't have the cash to apply, it can't, it pretty much makes that
And
decision for you.
so if we don't have the cash apply, but
That's existing
But,
cash from
but
previous years, yeah.
the crime that we have to pay for is still gonna happen, the trials, the unfunded mandates. So those are gonna have to be paid regardless. And the only options that we have are basically the things that aren't state law, like roads and bridges. So, I mean, is that what you're seeing statewide, is that's probably the biggest expense to most counties? And when budget crunches come, they cut the highway department, right?
Well, some of those things will have to happen, yes.
Yeah.
There's only so far you can go with, when the person, if you have a police department and when you need a policeman or the
Yeah.
sheriff's office to show up, you call, you
Yeah.
want somebody to respond.
Yeah.
And you may not need that for years, but when you call on that
Yeah.
day, you need them
Yeah.
to show up.
Yeah.
And that's what you're paying for.
Nobody wants to cut public safety, I know that.
Probably my last question. You probably say, thank God.
Well, some of these, I think that, I see you're upset, but there's nothing I
I'm
can do
not
about
upset, I want the public to know what the hell's
it.
happening.
Okay.
Well, I am upset.
Yeah,
Yeah. When we got the initial audit report back in January, Patty? December or January of last year?
No, we didn't have one last year.
Actually, I'm just finishing up your most current audit now. We
Okay.
haven't given the
Then
final
the one
report.
before that.
On the 16th of this
Yeah,
month.
Yeah, whenever we got it, I took a look at it and saw the drastic difference between revenue and expenses. And my understanding was that the report, not the final report, but what Patty was told was that we're doing all right, but we gotta stop cutting, making expenses in certain areas. and that was going into the special funds. Well, we can't live off our general fund. It won't happen.
Yeah, that's true. What kind of what you were saying and what you're saying is that as time goes along, the money, the cost of things exceeds the way your revenues are growing. And you'll have to cut something to keep the budget balanced. We only have $10, we can only spend $10.
But
So
it-
that's what's
but if
happening.
As John indicated at our last meeting, there was a senator or representative stood up and pounded the desk and said these damn counties gotta quit overspending. Where do we cut the expenses?
Well, I think that's up to you. I'm not gonna tell you where to cut the expenses, but I see where they're being cut, because if you have this county, where are the biggest dollars? I mean,
Okay.
if you got a sheriff department, are you happy with 2 deputies or
Yeah.
10? What do you need?
Well, if you don't have the money, you don't have to go to 2.
Well,
That's,
if you-
that's,
but
that's the
what's-
way it is.
I understand you saying that,
It's
but logically, what's gonna happen is, and I see that mostly is, everybody wants their roads in really fine shape. That's where the biggest dollars go, and that's what's,
Well,
Probably
and
gonna-
we're seeing it in, a lot of other counties across the state, is they're not doing the maintenance, they're deferring maintenance. Instead of crack sealing a road this year like you should, they wait 2 years, and when LTAP comes and talks to us, they say every dollar you don't spend this year costs $7 to catch up to it, but.
we don't have the dollar this
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
So, where you're gonna have 7 in 2 years from now, that's one of those things.
And with 80% of our budget unfunded mandates by the state, we can't really touch that. So we're dealing with 20% of the budget. And if we can do 20% of a cut to 20%, that's only 4% of the total. And that's really not, that's hardly anything if you think about it. So the most of our budget is spent before we have any say whatsoever. Again, all of these that I read off, there's no choice when that bill comes in. We have to pay. We can't say, you know what, we're only gonna spend 200,000 on juvenile detention this year. That's not an option.
It's not an
When the $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 comes in. When that guy killed that lady who was from Sioux Falls, who shouldn't even be in our community anyway, we have to pay that. When somebody comes from Nebraska and commits a crime, we can't budget for that. Though the things that are on our plate are, criminal justice, it's impossible to budget for that because you never know what that price is gonna be.
But if you cut services, like you said, the sheriff, the ambulance, you're gonna cut services for the people of the county.
Right.
And you are gonna, I think, have to distribute that,
Yeah.
whatever you're gonna budget for.
I'd agree. Nobody wants to cut services, but how do you pay for it?
If we're gonna
you don't
raise
have
major
it?
money, it
Yeah.
has to come from employees,
Yeah.
because that's a big part of our budget.
No,
Well,
it's not the biggest part.
The biggest, these all provide the services as you're required to provide. And so, I know everybody, ultimately what's gonna come down to is, if you're gonna, I think your funds are sufficient to handle for employees and stuff like providing those services. But I'm not saying it's up to this board, and all of this is up to this board, that, an opt-out for additional costs and stuff to cover the shortfall in the road and bridge fund, because that's where the largest dollars. And if you can't get that, that's what it is.
You got 16,000 people in the city of Yankton that have 4-lane going west and a good one going north and south. And you got, 7,000 or 8,000 people in communities outside. How do you think that vote's gonna go every time?
I understand,
How-
but
how do you think it's
but
gonna
then
go?
you guys, it comes down to that. If it's no, then you,
So then we just close the doors.
I say that, I don't think there's the closing the doors. I says, I go, you
Well, where are
provide
you
the
gonna get
services you
money?
can.
Where are you gonna get the money?
I don't know that, sir. That's a legislative thing, and the legislators will have to come up with something.
Well, we have legislators in the audience today I hope they're hearing the message.
Yeah, it's
And
not
believe
uncommon, but,
Okay, question, I guess, point blank, like with our 11 million of revenue and 15 million, can we afford this budget that we have in front of us?
okay, how do you fund the $4 million that you're short?
Well, we'd have to take it from the cash.
The cash,
Okay.
your carryover.
So, I mean, we could,
That'd be the cash balance that existed there from the previous year.
So we
And you could do it one time,
okay, so then what happens this time next year?
and this
If
time
we
next
don't-
year, then you need to lop off $3 million.
Okay, so,
Or 4 million, whatever it is,
what
you
you're
don't
saying,
have the cash to
our
apply.
choice is,
Maybe 5 if they come up with another detention program that we have to pay for.
so
Whatever it is.
our choice is take the easy path this year, and it'll be a lot harder next year, or do some cutting here and next year.
Well,
I mean, you know, there's trouble ahead, right?
Well,
Is that
can
what
be.
you're-
Yeah,
well, and-
I'm just saying that
Yeah.
if you were to take that and, you need to kind of feather it in, if you will. Because if you do that, we spoke earlier, your revenues only go up, your fund balance only goes to the general fund by about 1.1 million, revenues in excess of expenditures. And if you're not transferring it, it'll grow. But if you transfer that out, it stays pretty static. If you take that down too far, you're talking about no money to some of these other funds for 4 or 5 years to get back to whatever you consider to be the acceptable level.
And that's
Or 2 years.
barring major emergencies like we've had in the past, major flooding,
That's true.
damage, because, you know, Mike and Paul and I, 2019, 2020, we had to front all of that cost to fix all, and then wait sometimes years for reimbursement. And if that fund's $1 million and we had $2 million of damage, we won't be able to fix anything.
That's
Is that-
exactly the thing is you'll have to find, if that were to happen this fall, that you had a lot of FEMA,
Yeah,
they'll pay you, but it could be a significant period of time before you get the check.
Not always.
And so, because but it isn't now, you know.
well, I mean, FEMA isn't paying out for the California fires, cause they're broke. What I heard
what
is
it said on
you have to
TV.
wait for the next disaster, and then California will get paid, and then the disaster after that. So you might have to wait years for that payment. So,
Yes.
okay. I guess one more question too is, you know, counties, a lot of them are on the verge of bankruptcy, but then in 2023, the state lowered the sales tax rate. Like, why wouldn't some of that have come and help offset property taxes?
This is a legislative thing.
Yeah.
I can't help you with that at all, but that's,
Okay.
is there someone in the audience that maybe knows the answer to that?
Yeah.
I do not know that one, so.
Yeah.
But,
So this side of the room over here has been pretty quiet. Have you guys, Ryan, Wanda, do you have any questions for Jeff? I'm sure there's some people in the audience that are just itching to get up and ask a question.
okay.
I don't have any questions right now. You know, I see it as, you know, I kind of understand it exactly. You know, we're dipping into our general fund. We can do that only for so long before we're going to be living paycheck to paycheck, just like a lot of people. And that means that we're going to have to cut a lot of services, and we would prefer not to get to that point, so
It's just whatever you're comfortable with as a board.
Let's get some questions, you guys. Now would be the time.
If you have a question for public comment, please come up to the microphone and ask your question, and we'll see if Jeff or we can answer one for you.
Nancy Winandy, citizen of Yankton County, and I'm not representing my employer as I'm making these statements. I wanted to be clear on that. So I love listening to this conversation, and it was mentioned that we could maybe do an opt-out to cover those expenses. One of the things that I know, I've discussed this with several of you, is the ability for the legislature to allow counties to implement a sales tax. That would be extremely beneficial for Yankton because we have such a high level of tourism, especially in the county area. That would create a diversified revenue source for the county. So you would have sales tax as well as property tax. So I think trying to get the legislature to allow the county to have local control and vote on that here could really help offset some of these revenue challenges that we're seeing in the future. So I do not have a question.
I hope you're addressing that to not just this group of people, but to the total community in Yankton.
I've been having a lot of those conversations statewide with the Economic Development Professionals Association to see what we can do to help the counties, because everyone wants the counties to be successful. We all want the cities to be successful. We want the townships to be successful, but unfortunately, the mandates that are funded by property tax, I don't want to call them unfunded because they're unfunded by the property tax, the numbers just don't balance out. And so I hear legislators say, the counties have too much money, they need to cut their budget. I understand that might be in some counties. I have not yet found that county that has too much money. We know that the state right now is working on fixing the property tax potentially, because there's about 5 or 6 counties that are having serious problems with that. But it's becoming a statewide solution for 5 or 6 counties. Right or wrong, that's the situation we're dealing with. So if there's 5 or 6 counties potentially that have excess revenue, why are all of the counties getting punished and not having the ability to diversify their revenue sources? Thank you.
Gary, do you have that number for sales tax just for Yankton County if we got outside of the city limits? If we got to charge a 2% sales tax or 1% sales tax, do you remember what that number is?
According to the governor's report that I saw, a 1/2-cent sales tax throughout the county would entirely offset the county's portion of your property tax. Of the owner occupied, correct, yeah.
That's
And then any excess could go to ag and commercial, but it would be
Yes.
enough to, now that's just the county part, that'd only be that small area up there. You would still have to pay your school, municipal, special district, road district one, but, and then a full cent would be, would be
But we did
considered
it,
more.
there was a study done a couple years ago on just
Yeah.
sales tax for the county if we charged.
Yeah. I
If we
believe
were
it was
allowed to
about
charge-
10 Yeah, about 10 million, and that's it. We have this tourism industry, which is great, but the county doesn't necessarily get revenue from that. When beer and fireworks and everything is sold out in the lake area, we don't get a direct input on that. Now, if somebody builds a house out there, yeah, we get that, but.
An increase in
But
property
if
tax.
If
but-
somebody from Iowa goes and camps at the lake, Troy with the ambulance has to go out there, which you're out there a lot. Those people didn't contribute to Yankton County, but they get it. If they have too much fun, Preston has to go out there, and if they have way too much fun and cause damage, then Paul and Aaron have to go out there. And then that's all on your expense, and we don't get anything for that with the, like the state campgrounds out there.
Wasn't a county sales tax brought before the legislature and the legislature declined to
Many
do that?
times. It's made it out of committee one time, but it gets, well, and we also propose that the counties get 25% of alcohol sales. The state gets 50 and the city gets 50, and, I mean, if I'm correct, Sheriff, a lot of the problems originate with alcohol, right? So our thought is if we could get a lot of legal problems, if we could get a bigger chunk of the,
What I think,
The-
not-
Even if we
I
got
think the-
15%,
well, we get 25, but if we could get it 50. so-
2 years ago at the session, there was a bill that was brought up to where the counties would get 50%, city 25, and the state 25, and that failed like massively
Yeah.
in the legislature, so.
We haven't gotten a lot of help.
And that would have, I think if I remember that correctly, that number would have increased our revenue by a couple, $300,000.
There's gotta be come on, give us some input on what we need to do. We
Yeah,
got
what are
some
your
tough
thoughts? What should we
decisions.
do?
Please come. Yeah, come on up, Rich. Go Army, right?
Well, I don't know, just as
No, we
Well,
appreciate
Well, I'm
it.
Rick Goodrich.
Yep.
I live on 294. 2008, 2009, 2010, budgets were cut. Now we're going through it again. That's why my road got ground up, because there was two opt-outs voted on. I was made to feel like they kinda already knew how I voted. They don't know. But I felt the city of Yankton, all those residents, outweighed us. And they decided, well, we're not gonna have it twice. And we're always cutting. The county people, the rural people, I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say. Seems like they get squeezed out. And then you hear about how they were making all this money during COVID. The city of Yankton and the county got nothing. So, I don't know, it just keeps going on and on and on. 2 years, you're great. Next year, holy crap. Shit's hit the fan, excuse my language. And we all have to, and it's us county people that live out there, they're being screwed. That's how I feel.
How did the politicians get elected?
People who vote.
And
That's right, and I voted for people, and they still didn't make it because some other making money. What was it, $63 million overtures in the state?
To cut,
Correct.
so,
It's always the counties that are being bit,
yep.
so.
So,
All right.
we, you mentioned it, we have a friend that comes up from Scotts Bluff, Nebraska, and stays at the park for a couple days, and he always goes home with a pallet of Bud
Ooh.
Light or some kind of beer, a pallet, because it's so much cheaper
Yes, sir.
here than
No food, what was
There.
it, no grocery tax or
no
something?
taxes, no nothing.
you know,
Nebraska's paying out the yin yang for it. Yeah, we're always, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Start slapping some people around. I don't know. You can't do that.
Well, I think part of the answer is people like us need to speak up and be represented, like you said, be heard. When we have
There's other people that are
17% of the people vote, that's pathetic.
Correct. Like I said, I was made to feel that, you didn't vote for that opt-out when it was up, twice. Well, I'm not saying how I voted, but we got beat. That's how I felt. The county people got beat. So, I don't know, we're doing it again. We'll be doing this next year. Because our state doesn't know how, or doesn't seem to care about other crap.
well, I think the state sometimes forgets that, somebody who lives in Yankton County, they're also a state person.
You
So-
betcha.
So when you shift that task or whatnot to local government and property tax, yeah, it might save the state, but it costs you guys in your property tax bill.
But they aren't paying for anything,
Yeah,
it seems like. I mean,
exactly.
I'm sure they're paying for things, I'm not.
Yeah, yeah.
But it just seems like always the local people